Welcome to the tutorial for Saflex SoundPro. Saflex SoundPro is a software program that allows you to estimate and get data on glazings for acoustics. I'm your host for this session, Julia Schimmelpenning. I'm an Architectural Industry Technical Manager and the Customer Application Support Lab Manager in Springfield, Massachusetts in the USA. I have 30+ years experience in the glazing industry, and I contribute to many industry organizations and associations, and I'm an active developer of ASTM and ISO standards. So let's take a look at what we're going to review today. We're going to look at an introduction of SoundPro. We're going to take a look at the database, the use of SoundPro and how to most effectively use it, the limits it has, and then we'll open up for any questions. Saflex SoundPro is an Eastman-developed software program. It is available for online use only at www.saflex.com. It has acoustic data for reference and is a search software for glazing configurations and their acoustic performance. There's a feedback loop built into the system which allows us to develop additional data based on trends and requests. It uses tested glass configurations. Those are the tested results, and from those tested results we create our estimates when the data is not available. It allows the users to make requests for estimates of configurations which may not yet be in the system. Therefore, we have a growing database with time, and we encourage people to check back often. Registration for use of the software is required, and that is through the Saflex website as mentioned above with access to the restricted section. What does the database provide? Reports of the data are in an Eastman format. This is because the data is to serve as guidance only. This is not certificate information. This is to give you an idea of how a configuration will perform under the tested guidelines. We provide the newest reports for a configuration or typical performance if we have multiple reports for a configuration. The glazing types that are included in the program are monolithic. We have one report for each thickness up to 12 millimeters. We have insulating glazings. There's a limited number of tests as those are also for reference only. We have laminated single units that utilize Saflex Clear R-Series interlayer, Saflex Acoustic Q-Series interlayer, and a combination of Saflex R and Q interlayers in a single unit laminated glass. We have laminated insulating glass units. The laminate is always modeled to the inboard for consistency. And we have double laminated insulating glass units with various constructions including different thicknesses of glasses on either side of the airspace and different interlayer configurations. Triple units, be it laminated insulating or regular triple units, are not included in the program, but we'll discuss those later. And multiply laminated constructions are also not included in the program, but both the triple laminated insulating units and multiply laminated units can be requested for estimates. There are over 200+ tested configurations in the software program, and we're constantly making additions and updates as requested or tested. Now let's look at the landing page. When you open the program, this is what you'll see. Once you open up SoundPro, you'll see a main page. There are required fields in this main page, and they're marked by a red asterisk. You need to put in a project name or an ID. This is a free fill field. The city, again, free fill. The country, which is a drop-down menu and has smart type, so you only have to start typing the first few letters. And then a glass usage request in square meters. This is also a drop-down menu that gives 5 categories. The most important part on this main page is selecting the type of calculation that you're interested in. There are two types. One is the performance calculation, or the other is the glazing configuration. In the performance calculation, you would provide a single unit number that you're trying to target. That number is either an OITC, an RW, or an STC value. Under the glazing configuration, you actually input the configuration you're interested in, and the database will go back and search and see if there's something tested or estimated in that configuration. So this is what that menu looks like. As you can see, the project name and ID, the city, and the country, which is a drop-down menu. As I said, it's a smart field, so you only have to start typing. The next is the glass usage. Again, the 5 categories are there, and we just ask that you select the glass quantity on the project you're designing for. And then the last part, and the most important part, is the type of calculation. We have targeted performance target, meaning you have available an OITC, RW, or STC value that you're trying to meet. You click the radio button next to the performance target, and that will bring up that section of the program. So again, in the performance target side, we're searching for OITC, RW, and STC rated configurations. Please note that these single number ratings are ordered alphabetically and not by preference. The acoustic targets, you select only one. You can select only OITC or RW or STC. It returns the target you've selected and then anything in the database that is above that target. Multiple targets are not allowed, and if you need to change or clear, just use the backspace in the system. Results start appearing as soon as the target is entered. Here is an example of us entering in an RW request of 37. Once that is entered in, performance data starts coming up, and you can see that everything in the RW field is at a 37 or above. This is a summary listing, multiple pages in this case, 13 pages of results that you can look through. The same occurs for STC. In this case, I've entered an STC of 35, and as soon as I enter that in, you can see in the STC column that all of the results are at 35 or above. Again, we have 15 pages of results. And now an example of OITC. For this case, I've chosen an OITC of 32. When I look at the OITC values, all of the results in that column are at a 32 or above. And again, I have 14 pages of results. So what if there's too many results? There is an option to refine your results. You can apply filters to narrow the matching results that have come up. Select the inner layer type, choosing no inner layer, conventional inner layer, or acoustic. If you choose none, you'll see monolithic or standard insulating units. If you choose the conventional inner layer, that is the Saflex R series material. If you choose acoustic inner layer, that is the Saflex Q series material. You will also see a combination of Saflex Q and R when you select Saflex Acoustic. After you've chosen the type of interlayer, you can also choose the interlayer thickness. If you select any thickness, all configurations of that interlayer will show up in your results. If you have selected a different thickness or a specific thickness, you will only see the results for that thickness. You then select the glazing type. This allows filtering by the type of glazing, namely laminated, laminated insulating, and double laminated insulating. It restricts the choices based on all of the other filters that are also filled out. The last choice you have is the overall thickness of the glazing unit. Be careful with this because it requests that you fill in a minimum and or a maximum. You can choose one or both of those entries to narrow your results. Remember that the overall thickness does include the insulating gap. Here is an example of refining the results. Here we look at an STC of 35. I choose to refine my results further by selecting an interlayer type. Here I'm going to choose the acoustic PVB Saflex Q Series interlayer. I want to choose any thickness of Saflex Q Series because we know that the thickness of the Q Series does not affect the overall single number rating for acoustic performance. Next, I want to choose my glazing type. Here I've chosen a laminated single unit. And next, I want to restrict the overall glass thickness to 38 millimeters. And so I enter only the maximum thickness and not the minimum thickness. What you can see is the results come up for the STC of 35 or greater, and all of the configurations have the Saflex Acoustic Q Series material in the construction. At this point, I've decided I need to enter my own configuration because what I was planning on isn't necessarily coming up. So what I do is I click the Back to Home button that's on the left-hand side of the screen. By clicking the Back to Home button, it brings me up to that first page that we looked at that had the required data. If you are in the same session and have not exited the program, the data will pre-populate for your project ID, your city, your country, and your glass usage. Then all you need to do is switch the radio button to the glazing configurator. Once the glazing configuration comes up, you can take a look and pick out of the drop-down list what configuration you are interested in. We're going to walk through briefly all the different configurations. My first selection is going to be monolithic. When the monolithic configuration is chosen and I click Select Glass Thickness, I'll get a drop-down menu for the glass thicknesses that are available. I select the 6 millimeter in this case. After selecting the 6 millimeter, my results pre-populate and we can see the report for the 6 millimeter monolithic glass. My next choice is going to be looking at insulating units. Here I select the insulating unit from the drop-down menu. When the insulating menu comes up, I see I have 3 fields I need to fill in: glass 1, insulating gap, and glass 2. Here I have filled in a 6 millimeter glass with a 12 millimeter airspace and a 6 millimeter glass. Again, once those targets are filled in, the results will populate and you can view those results. My next choice is going to be a laminated single glazing unit. Here you can see I selected laminated, and I have a 3 millimeter inboard glass and a 3 millimeter outboard glass. I have also selected the Saflex Acoustic PVB Q Series, and I've selected it in any thickness. For this, you can see my results show up, and you can see the glass is restricted to the 3 millimeter glass that I put in, but I have a couple options in interlayer thickness. So what happens if I enter in a configuration that isn't in the database? Well, in this case, I have looked at a laminated construction. I put an outboard glass of 12 millimeters. I'm looking for Saflex Acoustic PVB Q Series in any thickness, and an inboard glass of 16 millimeters. That material doesn't seem to show any results. At the bottom, where the results would show up, you see no tested or estimated data available at this time. But what if I'm still curious and I would like to have some data for that? You will see the Click to Request Configuration button. By clicking that button, A message will be sent automatically to the customer support lab. From that, we will look at your request and offer you an estimation if possible. You will receive that via email in 7 to 10 days. Now let's look at a laminated insulating glass unit. This is a little bit more complicated, as you have to select the glass thickness outboard, select your airspace, and you enter that in whole numbers in millimeters. Select your first part of your laminated glass, which is the outboard facing glass for the laminate. Select your inner layer type, and then select your inboard glass thickness. It's important to remember that in the system, all of the laminated insulating glass units have the laminates facing the interior. Next, we'll look at a double laminated insulating glass unit. As you can see, it's getting a little more complicated. There are more fields to fill in. You need to go from the outboard into the inboard side, filling in the glass as you go. So you fill in the outboard glass, the interlayer for the laminate facing outboard, and inboard glass for the outboard light. This would be the glass that is facing the insulating gap. Then you type in the insulating gap, again in whole numbers in millimeters, and continue on to put your inboard glass laminate together with the first glass thickness facing the airspace, your interlayer type, and then your second glass, which would be the glass facing the inboard. What if you need to have a triple laminated insulating glass unit? You can select this from the drop-down menu. You will see, however, that a pop-up appears before you can fill in the form. That pop-up gives you information which says triple laminated insulating glazing will need to have estimations requested. If you would like to proceed, fill in the configuration desired and click to request the configuration. If possible, an estimation will be prepared and sent to you, and then you need to click the OK button. This is done so that you don't go ahead and fill in the entire configuration with the expectation of seeing immediate results. You can see the insulating glass for triples is much more complicated, and it still starts with the outboard glass and moves towards the inboard glass. You have to fill in the layers and then click the request for the estimate. Our last configuration in the system is the multiply laminated construction. The multiply laminated construction will also come up with that same information where you click OK before you start filling in the cells. This is because we have not included multiply laminated glass data in the system. However, the configurations can be requested for estimates, and if we have the proper background to be able to give you that estimate, we will provide it for you. Remember, click to request configuration will automatically send an email for the cells you have filled in to the lab to ask for estimation. If the information is not filled out completely, or we cannot create an estimation for you based on the information provided, you will receive a response stating such. So let's take a look at what the data looks like coming from Saflex SoundPro and how we get it. Throughout this webinar, we have seen the results popping up in a summary sheet at the bottom. Well, there's got to be more data than just those few columns that are shown. So what we do is you click on that PDF icon. What we have here is a 2-page report of performance data. So a closer look at the top section shows you the project information that you filled in, calculation information, meaning the date and who prepared the estimate, the configuration, then the interlayer type, the ratings are on the left-hand side, the test details are in the middle, so you have everything from a test code, an ID, the date, the test temperature, the humidity during the test, and all of the other details of the actual test. Then you have the glazing unit details, meaning the panel size and calculated unit area, aspect ratio, weight, and the overall thickness. The bottom half of the printout is only populated when it is a test result or the transmission loss data could be estimated based on our tested data. This will show up as a graph that most people are familiar seeing, and then also the frequency data is available on the side. So you see it both in a graphed and a tabular form. The second page of the printout are the report notes, and these are very important. This gives you the ID so that it can be coordinated with the first page. It talks about the notes in the report notes, meaning that this is tested for glazing only without frames. The lab deviation of plus or minus 1 from tested configurations and estimated values of plus or minus 3 units. It talks about the DBA reduction, evaluation in accordance to which standards, and all of the information necessary. Please note the report validity is only when used in its entirety to ensure that it is not misinterpreted. And then we have our disclaimer and the footer for reference. That PDF can be downloaded and saved as the 2-page report for use as a good guidance for acoustical design. So in summing up SoundPro, the limitations are the monolithic data greater than 12 millimeters is not available at this time. Standard insulating units estimations are not offered for those. However, you can look them up in the system for reference. The referenced and tested data is published in a booklet and a brochure by Eastman and is available online at saflex.com. Triple insulating and multiply laminated constructions are available, but only through estimations. And true assembly calculations online at this time are not available. We want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this webinar. In summary, Saflex SoundPro is a free online tool that is available at saflex.com. It offers a mechanism for looking at various glazing configurations and seeing how they perform from a single unit rating calculation of STC, OITC, and RW. We provide tested results, although they are not certificates of testing. They are tested results of glass only and are meant to serve as guidance. We also will provide estimates for configurations not currently in the database, and those are available upon request through the system. We hope that you've enjoyed the webinar and look forward to seeing you online calculating and asking for estimates at Saflex SoundPro. Thank you.